My name is Robert. I was 18 years old and excited. I still remember my first day at work. I got a job at a small cafe in town. It was a busy place with many customers. The smell of coffee filled the air. The sound of people talking and laughing was everywhere. The workers moved fast, carrying trays and taking orders. I had never worked before, but I wanted to do my best. When I arrived, the manager welcomed me. He was a tall man with kind eyes. He showed me around the cafe. The kitchen was small but busy. The coffee machines made loud noises. The tables were full of people enjoying their drinks. The manager explained my job. "You will take orders and serve coffee," he said. I nodded and listened carefully. Everything seemed easy. I thought, this will be fun and simple. At first, I was nervous. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating fast. I took my first order. A man wanted a cup of black coffee. I went to the counter. I picked up the cup, but my hands were not steady. The cup slipped. It fell to the floor. Coffee spilled everywhere. The sound of the cup breaking made everyone look at me. I froze. My face felt hot with embarrassment. I looked at the manager. I expected him to be angry, but he smiled. He said, "Don't worry. Everyone makes mistakes." He gave me another cup. "Try again," he said. I took a deep breath and tried again. I cleaned the mess quickly. Then I made another cup of coffee. This time I did not drop it. I carefully walked to the customer and placed the cup on the table. He smiled and thanked me. I felt a little better. The cafe was busy. People came and went. I took more orders. I carried more cups. I walked carefully. I tried not to spill anything. I focused on every step I took. I was learning. I was getting better. I started to enjoy the work. I felt proud of myself. But then something else happened. A woman ordered a cappuccino. I made it and carried it to her table. The cup was full and I held it tightly, but I did not see the small puddle of water on the floor. My foot slipped. I lost my balance. The cup tilted. Coffee spilled on the table and on the woman's sleeve. She gasped and looked at me. I will never forget that moment. My face turned red. My heart started beating faster. I felt so embarrassed. I wanted to run away, but the manager walked over. He helped clean the table. He looked at me and said, "It's okay. Just be careful next time." His words helped me. I took a deep breath and nodded. That day, I made many mistakes, but I also learned many things. I learned to stay calm. I learned to be careful. I learned to pay attention to small details. And most of all, I learned that mistakes are part of learning. I left work that day feeling tired, but I also felt stronger. The next morning, I woke up early. I was ready for my second day at work. I put on my uniform and looked in the mirror. Today will be better, I told myself. I wanted to improve. I wanted to show the manager that I could do a good job. I left home quickly and walked to the cafe. The streets were quiet, and the air was cool. I took a deep breath and smiled. When I arrived, the cafe was already busy. Customers sat at the tables, drinking coffee and eating breakfast. The smell of fresh bread and roasted coffee filled the air. The workers moved fast, talking to customers and preparing orders. The manager saw me and nodded. "Ready for another day?" he asked. I nodded back and said, "Yes, I am ready." I felt more confident than yesterday. I started by cleaning the tables. I picked up empty cups and wiped the surfaces. Then I took orders. I smiled at the customers and wrote everything carefully. I made sure not to spill anything. I carried the cups with steady hands. I walked slowly and placed the drinks on the tables. I was learning to move smoothly without rushing. The customers seemed happy. Then a group of 6 people walked in. They sat at a big table near the window. They laughed and talked loudly. One of them called me over. "Can we get 6 cappuccinos?" he asked. I nodded and wrote it down. I walked to the counter and started making the drinks. The coffee machine made a loud sound as I frothed the milk. The cups were lined up, ready to be served. I focused on every step. I placed the cups on a tray. I made sure they were stable. I took a deep breath and carried the tray carefully. The cafe was crowded and I had to walk past many tables. My hands were steady and I moved slowly. I reached their table and started placing the cups down. 1, 2, 3. Everything was going well. But then, as I placed the 4th cup, my elbow hit the edge of the table. The last 2 cups tilted. One of them fell over. Coffee spilled on the table and dripped onto the floor. I froze for a second. The customers looked at me. I felt my face get hot. "I'm so sorry," I said quickly. I grabbed a cloth and started cleaning. The manager came over and helped. The customers were kind. "It's okay," one of them said. "It happens." I felt relieved. The manager patted my shoulder. "Just be careful next time," he said with a smile. The rest of the day went smoothly. I moved faster and felt more comfortable. I learned to balance the tray better. I learned to watch my surroundings. I made fewer mistakes. The manager noticed my progress. "You're improving," he said. His words gave me confidence. That evening, when I finished my shift, I felt tired but happy. I had made another mistake, but I also learned another lesson. I knew that every day I would get better. As I walked home, I thought about everything. I smiled to myself and whispered, "I think I like this job." A week passed, and I was starting to feel more comfortable at work. I knew where everything was. I knew how to take orders quickly. I knew how to carry trays without spilling. I was not perfect, but I was improving. The manager noticed my progress. "You're getting better," he said one morning. His words made me feel proud. I wanted to do even better. That day, the cafe was very busy. More customers came than usual. Some people sat at the tables, while others stood near the counter waiting for their coffee. The workers moved quickly, preparing drinks and taking orders. The air was filled with the smell of fresh coffee and baked bread. The sound of cups clinking and people talking filled the cafe. I liked the energy, but I also felt nervous. I knew I had to work fast. I took an order from a man at the counter. He wanted a large black coffee and a sandwich. I prepared the coffee first. The machine made a loud sound as the dark liquid poured into the cup. I grabbed a plate and placed the sandwich on it. Then I turned around to hand them to the man. But as I turned, I did not see the other worker behind me. We bumped into each other. Everything happened fast. The cup slipped from my hand. The coffee spilled all over the counter. The sandwich fell to the floor. The man looked surprised. I felt my heart drop. I quickly grabbed a cloth and cleaned the mess. "I'm very sorry," I said. The customer nodded but did not say anything. I felt terrible. I made another coffee and a new sandwich. This time I was more careful. I placed them in front of him. "Here you go, sir," I said softly. He took them and gave a small smile. I felt a little better. After that, I tried to focus more. I moved carefully and watched my surroundings. I did not want to bump into anyone again. The manager saw what happened and walked over. I expected him to be upset, but he just said, "It's okay, keep going." His patience surprised me. I nodded and continued working. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. My legs hurt from standing all day. My hands smelled like coffee and soap. But I felt proud. Even though I made a mistake, I kept going. I was learning, and that was the most important thing. As I left the cafe, I thought to myself, tomorrow I will do even better. Days passed, and I kept getting better at my job. The cafe became familiar. I learned all the drinks on the menu. I knew how to take orders quickly. I moved faster and more confidently. Customers started to recognize me. Sometimes they smiled and waved when I walked by. That made me feel good. I was no longer the new guy. I was part of the team. One afternoon, the cafe was busier than usual. There was a long line at the counter, and many people were sitting at the tables talking and laughing. The sound of the coffee machine and clinking cups filled the air. I took a deep breath and focused. I knew I had to keep moving. I was carrying a tray with 3 large drinks when one of the customers called me over. She asked for a 4th drink. I quickly wrote it down and walked to the counter to prepare it. As I was making the drink, the manager came up to me. "We are very busy today," he said. "Make sure you stay focused." I nodded. His voice was calm, but I could tell he was serious. I finished the 4th drink and carried the tray to the table. Everything was going well. I placed the drinks in front of the customers and smiled. But as I turned around to leave, my foot hit the edge of a chair. I lost my balance and stumbled forward. The tray tipped over and the drinks spilled onto the floor. I froze. I felt embarrassed. I quickly bent down and started cleaning up the mess. The customers looked at me, but no one said anything. I felt terrible. The manager saw what happened. He walked over and said, "Don't worry, it happens. Just be more careful next time." His calm voice made me feel better. I nodded and continued cleaning. After a few minutes, I finished. I apologized to the customers again, and they smiled. "It's okay," one of them said. "No problem." After that, I focused even more. I took smaller steps, paid attention to my surroundings, and made sure not to rush. By the end of my shift, I felt proud of myself. I had made another mistake, but I had learned from it. As I walked home, I thought about everything I had learned. I smiled and whispered to myself, "I will get better every day." Weeks passed, and I was feeling more confident in my job. The cafe felt like my second home now. I knew where everything was, and I could work without thinking too much. My colleagues and I worked together well, and we joked and laughed between serving customers. I started to enjoy the busy days where there was always something to do. One day, a man walked into the cafe. He looked tired and hungry. His clothes were dirty and his hair was messy. He sat at the counter and ordered a cup of coffee. I brought it to him with a smile. "Here you go," I said. The man looked up and smiled back. He thanked me softly. As I walked away, I noticed the man was staring at the coffee. His hand shook as he picked up the cup. I didn't know why, but I felt a little worried. I wanted to ask if he was okay, but I didn't. I continued to work, but I kept an eye on him. After a while, the man left the cafe. He didn't say goodbye, but I noticed he left a big tip on the counter. I felt good about it. Maybe he didn't have much, but he still left something for us. I couldn't stop thinking about him for the rest of the day. It made me realize that sometimes small acts of kindness can make a big difference. I didn't know his story, but in that moment, he reminded me to be kind to everyone. By the end of my shift, I was tired but happy. I had learned so much, not just about work, but about life. Every day at the cafe taught me something new. As I walked home that evening, I thought about the man who left the tip. I smiled to myself, knowing that it was a day I would never forget. The weeks turned into months, and I became a regular worker at the cafe. I had learned how to manage the busy hours and handle difficult situations. I was proud of the work I had done and the progress I had made. Every time I walked into the cafe, I felt a sense of belonging. The people I worked with had become like a second family to me. One evening, the cafe was quieter than usual. There were only a few customers sitting by the window, sipping their drinks and chatting. I was wiping the counter when the manager came over. He smiled at me and said, "You've been doing great work. I'm really proud of you." I couldn't believe it. His words meant a lot to me. I had started out so nervous and unsure of myself, but now I was confident in my abilities. I had learned to make every drink, handle every situation, and work as a team. It was a long journey, but I had made it. That night, as I cleaned up the cafe and prepared to go home, I felt happy. It wasn't just about the work. It was about how much I had grown and how far I had come. I had learned more than just how to make coffee. I had learned about responsibility, patience, and kindness. I smiled as I walked out of the cafe, thinking about how proud I was of myself. The next day, I woke up early and prepared for my shift. I knew it would be another busy day, but I wasn't afraid. I was ready. Every day at the cafe was a new lesson, and I couldn't wait to see what I would learn next. How did you like this story? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to share with your friends. Thank you.